Hey, Melissa,
Hello.
do you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Hey, it's all right. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I
I
was
know moving is
upstairs.
a
I was
pain,
eating.
isn't it?
Hmm?
Moving is a pain.
Yeah.
So did you find a place to move yet? Or did you get a new roommate or no?
Yeah, I found a place.
Oh, you found a place, but not a roommate, or
Um,
you're just
no,
gonna,
I'm just moving. I'm moving up to Wexford.
oh, Wexford, way up north.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife and I always go up to Sorgels and Schnatz. That's oh, there. What's the cat's name again?
Coconut.
Coconut. Yeah, my wife knows her name very well. Well, she'll
Oh,
be participating in the Bhagavad-gītā class. So I'm going to New Vrindavan tomorrow.
oh, nice.
Yeah, so Jayashree, Mother Jayashree, she's an older lady. She is in charge of like the transporting devotees and people, to and from the airport and getting people to the farm. And so I guess there's some kind of NBC guy that's doing a piece on the palace. And so he needs a ride to the airport at 2:30 tomorrow. So I'm going to go there. And then I'm going to pick up Nityodita's book. There's a three-part, Malati, right?
Yeah.
Malati used to be married to Shama Sundar, who was like, in touch with all the Beatles. He knew George Harrison and everything. Anyway, he wrote three books. They're all called Chasing the Rhinos with the Swami, and so the third one just came out and he's got it. And so I wanted to borrow it so I could read it after I read this one.
Oh,
The
nice.
one I'm reading now, it's going to take a while though, because it's got 10,000 pages.
Wow.
It's the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's just by like a 17th century Vaishnava guru, back then. Really, really good. But I just keep reading all these things again and again. It doesn't matter to me. So we're on chapter 13, verse 14, I believe. And let me pull that up here. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read the Sanskrit and the synonyms and translation, and you can read the purport. The next two purports are just one paragraph, so you can read both of those. And then the third one, I think, is like, we'll just take turns reading. It's got more than one paragraph. So, Sarvata pani padam tat sarvato kshi shiro mukam sarvata shruti ma loke sarvam avrita tistati. Synonyms: sarvata, everywhere, pani, hands, padam, legs, that, sarvata, everywhere, akshi, eyes, shira, heads, mukam, faces, sarvata, everywhere, shrutimat, having ears, loke, in the world, sarvam, everything, avritya, covering, tistati, exists. Translation: everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. Go ahead.
As the sun exists, sorry, one second. As the sun exists, diffusing its unlimited rays, so does the super soul or supreme personality of Godhead. He exists in his all-pervading form, and in him exist all the individual living entities, beginning from the first great teacher, Brahma, down to the small ants. There are unlimited heads, legs, hands, eyes, and unlimited living entities. All are existing in and on the supersoul. Therefore, the supersoul is all pervading. The individual soul, however, cannot say that he has his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. That is not possible. If he thinks that under ignorance he is not conscious that his hands and legs are diffused all over, but when he attains to proper knowledge, he will come to that stage his thinking is contradictory. This means that the individual soul, having become conditioned by material nature, is not supreme. The supreme is different from the individual soul. The Supreme Lord can extend his hand without limit. The individual soul cannot. In Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord says that if anyone offers him a flower or a fruit or a little water, he accepts it. If the Lord is a far distance away, how can he accept things? This is the omnipotence of the Lord. Even though he is situated in his own abode far, far away from earth, he can extend his hand to accept what anyone offers. That is his potency. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Goloka eva nivasati akilam mata bhuta. Although he is always engaged in pastimes in his transcendental planet, he is all-pervading. The individual soul cannot claim that he is all-pervading. Therefore, this verse describes the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, not the individual soul.
Yeah, these first few verses are just noting the difference between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. Text 15. Sarvendriya gunabhasam sarvendriya vidvarjitam akshatam sarvabrich-chaiva nirgunam gunabhoktir-cha. Synonyms: a sarva of all indriya senses, guna of the qualities, abhasam, the original source, sarva, all indriya senses, vivarjitam, without being, asaktam, without attachment, sarvabrit, maintainer of everyone, cha, also, eva, certainly, nirgunam, without material qualities, guna bhoktri, master of the gunas, cha, also. Translation: the super soul's original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. You can read the first paragraph. I'll read the second one.
Okay. The Supreme Lord, although the source of all the senses of the living entities, doesn't have material senses like they have. Actually, the individual souls have spiritual senses, but in conditioned life they are covered with the material elements, and therefore the sense activities are exhibited through matter. The Supreme Lord's senses are not so covered. His senses are transcendental and are therefore nirguna. Guna means material modes, but his senses are without material covering. It should be understood that his senses are not exactly like ours. Although he is the source of all our sensory activities, he has his transcendental senses which are not uncontaminated. This is very nicely explained in the Śikṣāṣtaka Upanishad in the verse Apani Pano Javano Grahita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no hands which are materially contaminated, but he and his hands accepts whatever sacrifice offered to him. That is the distinction between the conditioned soul and the super soul. He has no material eyes, but he has eyes, otherwise how could he see? He sees everything, past, present, and future. He lives within the heart of the living being, and he knows what we have done in the past, what we are doing now, and what is awaiting us in the future. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā. He knows everything, but no one knows him. It is said that the Supreme Lord has no legs like us, but he can travel throughout space because he has spiritual legs. In other words, the Lord is not impersonal. He has his eyes, legs, hands, and everything else. And because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we also have these things. But his hands, legs, eyes, and senses are not contaminated by material nature.
Bhagavad-gītā also confirms that when the Lord appears, he appears as he is by his internal potency. He's not contaminated by the material energy because he is the Lord of material energy. In the Vedic literature, we find that his whole embodiment is spiritual. He has his eternal form, called Sat Chidananda Vigraha. He is full of all opulence. He is the proprietor of all wealth and the owner of all energy. He is the most intelligent and is full of all of knowledge. These are some of the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the maintainer of all living entities and the witness of all activity. As far as we can understand from Vedic literature, the Supreme Lord is always transcendental. Though we do not see his head, face, hands, or legs, he has them. And when we're elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. Due to materially contaminated senses, we cannot see his form. Therefore, the impersonalists who are still materially affected cannot understand the personality of Godhead. Yeah, I was just reading in Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila, who was born like millions of years ago, to one of the first couples on earth, the sage named Kardama and his wife Devahuti. She gave birth to the Supreme Lord, and he instructed her because his wife, her husband was going to go away as soon as they bore a child. He wanted to get married, and so Krishna sent him a nice wife. But he, even though that's traditionally accepted as a material desire, even though he did that, Krishna perfectly fulfilled his desires, and he took care of his wife by giving her a son who was actually Krishna. Lord Kapila is Krishna himself, and so she was asking him questions, and he was explaining the process of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, which means you meditate on different parts of the Lord, and then you meditate on him as a whole. And you can actually meditate on, like it says, you can't see the Lord right now, but you can see him by meditation. You can see what he's doing. You can meditate on the various pastimes that he has in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan, or in the material world, and like when he's taking his cows out from the cow pen, in Vrindavan, or when he's at the base of Govardhan Hill. And then you can start out with his feet, think of his feet, and then go gradually up to his thighs, and then his chest, and his head, and his smile. And all these things are able to be perceived because he reveals to his devotee who wants to see these things. And so he can be seen in any circumstance, and all his pastimes are always being performed all over the various, it doesn't matter if they happened in the past, they're always going on in some universe somewhere. So it's just a matter of meditating, and then Krishna reveals all of his activities and forms and pastimes to somebody who's undergoing this process of Ashtanga yoga, just trying to see Krishna's different features, especially you start out with his feet, and then you go upwards from there. But it's kind of interesting that it's such a beautiful description of the limbs of his body. They're not like ordinary limbs. He's got a specific marks on his feet that you can tell that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's got different features that just separate him from even Narayan. Narayan has his features, but Krishna has his special features that are not even in Narayan. But it's just really, it's far out that Krishna is available if we just sit and meditate on him and chant his name. Basically, that's kind of an advanced situation to actually meditate in Ashtanga yoga. Some devotees, in our tradition, they meditate on different pastimes of the Lord and different features and 8 different kinds of parts of the day. He does different things at different times of the day, and then the devotees meditate on what he does and during those periods of the day. It's called Ashta Shakti. I think it's like 8 different periods of the day. Krishna, he gets up, he has breakfast, he goes out and tends the cows, and he comes back. So so that's and then the devotees want to enter into those pastimes, you can do that too. All you have to do is follow in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan, like the friends of Radharani, like Lalita and Vishaka. And if you want to follow them, they're the only ones that can bring you to that point. And then you have a service attitude. You want to, like she might engage you in getting flower garlands for Krishna or certain things like that. And then you can actually enter into those pastimes if you have a strong enough desire to associate with Krishna. And that should be our only desire, just to serve and be with the divine couple, Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. That's the highest. So I'll read the second, the third verse here, and then you can read the purport. Bharintas chabhutanam acharam charmevacha sukshmatvat tad advijnayam durvastam chantike chatat. Synonyms: Bahi, outside; anta, inside; cha, also; bhutanam, of all living entities; acharam, not moving; charam, moving; eva, also; cha, and; shukshmatvat, on account of being subtle; tat, that; avijnayam, unknowable; durashtam, far away; cha, also; antike, near; cha, and; tat, that. Translation: the supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he has the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he's also near to all. Go ahead.
In Vedic literature, we understand that Narayana, the Supreme Person, is residing both outside and inside of every living entity. He is present in both the spiritual and material worlds. Although he is far, far away, he is still near to us. These are the statements of Vedic literature. Asino Duram Vrajati Sayanyo Yati Sarvata. Katha Upanishad 1:2-21. And because he is always engaged in transcendental bliss, he cannot understand how he is enjoying his full opulence. We cannot understand how he is enjoying his full opulence. We cannot see or understand with these material senses. Therefore, in the Vedic language, it is said that to understand him, our material mind and senses cannot act. But one who has purified his mind and senses by practicing Krishna consciousness and devotional service can see him constantly. It is confirmed in Brahma Samhita that the devotee who has developed love for the Supreme God can see him always, without cessation. And it is confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā 11:54 that he can be seen and understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya Tav Ananya Sakya.
Yeah, you said that he cannot understand how he's enjoying his full opulence. Actually, he can't really either. We can't understand, of course, but he can't understand because he's always increasing at every moment. So then he has to increase his own understanding of himself in order to understand himself again, because he's unlimited. But we especially can't understand. The demigods can't understand, just like it said in the previous verse, he knows everybody, but nobody knows him. Text 17. Avibhaktam chabhuteshu vabhaktam eva chastitam bhuta bratri chatajnyayam grashishnu pravavishnu cha. Synonyms: avibhaktam, without division; cha, also; bhuteshu, in all living beings; vibhaktam, divided; eva, as if; cha, also; stitam, situated; bhuta bratri, the maintainer of all living entities; cha, also; tat, that; nyayam, to be understood; grashishnu, devouring; prabhavishnu, developing; cha, also. Translation: although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he's the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. You can read the purport.
The Lord is situated in everyone's heart as the super soul. Does this mean that he has become divided? No, actually, he is one. The example is given of the sun. The sun at the meridian is situated in its place. But if one goes for 5,000 miles in all directions and asks, "Where is the sun?" everyone will say that it is shining on his head. In the Vedic literature, this example is given to show that although he is undivided, he is situated as if divided. Although it is said in Vedic literature that one Vishnu is present everywhere by his omnipotence, just as the sun appears in many places to many persons, and the Supreme Lord, although the maintainer of every living entity, devours everything at the time of annihilation. This is confirmed in the 11th chapter when the Lord said he had come to devour all the warriors assembled at Kurukshetra. He also mentioned that in the form of time he devours also. He is the annihilator, the killer of all. When there is creation, he develops all from their original state, and at the time of annihilation, he devours them. The Vedic hymns confirm the fact that he is the origin of living entities and the rest of all. After creation, everything rests in his omnipotence, and after annihilation, everything again returns to rest in him. These are the confirmations of Vedic hymns. Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisam vizanti tad brahma tad vijnaspa.
Tattatreya Upanishad. That was pretty good.
Oh, thanks.
Text 18. Jyotisam apitaj jyotis tamasa paramuchate ganam gnayam ganam gamyam hridisarvasya vishtitam. Synonyms. Jyotisam, in all luminous objects, Api also taught that Jyoti, the source of light, Tamasa, the darkness, Param, beyond, Uchate, it is said, Gyanam, knowledge, Jnayam, to be known, Gyanagamyam, to be approached by knowledge, Hridi, in the heart, Sarvasya, of everyone's, Visiptam, situated. Translation, he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Yeah, there's another verse in the Bhagavad-gītā it says, I am the source of, I am remembrance and forgetfulness in everyone's heart. And he's the source of all knowledge. Whatever there is actually is coming from him. So he, we have to give credit where credit is due, and not just think it's something apart from him. Even the sun and moon is like, coming from him. You can go ahead and read the purport. The first paragraph.
The super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, is the source of light in all luminous objects like the sun, moon, and stars. In the Vedic literature, we find that in the spiritual kingdom, there is no need of sun or moon because the effulgence of the Supreme Lord is there. In the material world, that Brahma Jyotir, the Lord's spiritual effulgence, is covered by Mahat Tattva, the material elements. Therefore, in this material world, we require the assistance of the sun, moon, electricity, etc. for light. But in the spiritual world, there is no need of such things. It is clearly stated in the Vedic literature that because of his luminous effulgence, everything is illuminated. It is clear, therefore, that his situation is not in the material world. He is situated in the spiritual world, which is far, far away in the spiritual sky. That is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat, Svetstara Upanishad 3:8. He is just like the sun, eternally luminous, but he is far, far beyond the darkness of this material world.
His knowledge is transcendental. The Vedic literature confirms that Brahman is concentrated transcendental knowledge. To one who is anxious to be transferred to that spiritual world, knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. One Vedic mantra, Śikṣāṣtaka Upanishad 6:18 says, Tam ha devam atma buddhi prakasha mamukshurvai sharanam maham prabhadye. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of God if he at all wants liberation. As far as the goal of ultimate knowledge is concerned, it is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Tam eva viditvati mrityumeti. Quote, only by knowing him can one surpass the boundary of birth and death. End quote. Śikṣāṣtaka Upanishad 3:8. Go ahead.
He is situated in everyone's heart as the Supreme Controller. The Supreme has legs and hands distributed everywhere, and this cannot be said of the individual soul. Therefore, that there are two knowers of the field of activity, the individual soul and the super soul, must be admitted. One's hands and legs are distributed locally, but Krishna's hands and legs are distributed everywhere. This is confirmed in the Śikṣāṣtaka Upanishad, Sarvasya Prabhum Istyanam Sarvasya Saranam Bharat. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Super Soul, is the Prabhu or Master of all living entities. Therefore, he is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. So there is no denying the fact that the Supreme Super Soul and the individual soul are always different.
Text 19. Iti chetram tatagyanam gayam choktam samasata madbhakta etad vignaya mud bhavayo papadyate. Synonyms. Iti, thus, chetram, the field of activities, the body, tata, also jnanam, knowledge, jnayam, the knowable, cha, also uktam, described, samasata, in summary, mad bhakta, my devotee, etat, all this, vignaya, after understanding, mat bhavaya, to my nature, upapadyate, attains. Translation, thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been similarly described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. You can read the first paragraph.
The Lord has described in summary of the body, knowledge, and the knowable. This knowledge is one of three things: the knower, the knowable, and process of knowing. Combined, these are called vijnana, vijnana, or the science of knowledge. Perfect knowledge can be understood by the unalloyed devotees of the Lord directly. Others are unable to understand. The monists say that the ultimate stage of these three items become one, but the devotees do not accept this. Knowledge and development of knowledge mean understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness. We are being led by material consciousness, but as soon as we transfer all consciousness to Krishna's activities and realize that Krishna is everything, then we attain real knowledge. In other words, knowledge is nothing but the preliminary stage of understanding devotional service perfectly. In the 15th chapter, this will be clearly explained.
Now, to summarize, one may understand that verses 6 and 7, beginning with Mahabhutani and continuing through Chaitanya Driti, analyze the material elements and certain manifestations of the symptoms of life. These combine to form the body or the field of activities. And verses 8 through 12, from Amanitvam through Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam, describe the process of knowledge for understanding both types of knower of the field of activities, namely the soul and the supersoul. Then verses 13 through 18, beginning from Anadi Mat Param and continuing through Hridi Sarvasya Vishtitam, describe the soul and the Supreme Lord, or the supersoul.
Thus, three items have been described: the field of activity, the body, the process of understanding, and both the soul and the super soul. It is especially described here that only the unalloyed devotees of the Lord can understand these three items clearly. So for these devotees, Bhagavad-gītā is fully useful. It is they who can attain the supreme goal, the nature of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. In other words, only devotees and not others can understand Bhagavad-gītā and derive the desired result.
It's like a special club. That's why it's so cool. I think, it's like nobody else can understand, like a cloak of invisibility over everything that the devotees do and everything that Krishna does. Nobody can intrude on the activities, and nobody can understand the activities of a pure devotee or the Lord unless he wants, Krishna, you can't figure out who Krishna is. You never can. Only if he reveals himself to you can you understand. It's his choice, not ours. Sometimes the atheists will get up in front and just have a demonstration, if there's a God, then let him strike me down with a thunderbolt, in 1 minute, and then he'll sit there and time it out. And then he'll say, see, nothing happened. There's no God, and, well, why should Krishna, kowtow to these fools? He's just a fool, and he doesn't have to respond to those guys. I remember I have a birthday card, it had a picture of like a guy that was doing some graffiti on a wall and said, there is no God. And then it had a thunderbolt, like a lightning bolt. And then it had the voice box of God. It said, there is no Keith. So, like he always has the last word, it's just foolish to think that anything, because he can't know who he is unless he reveals himself to. Anyway, I'll read the first. We're running out of time here. We've got about 7 minutes and 26 seconds left. We started a little bit late, but so we'll be able to go past 6:40, but only for 7 minutes. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidi Anadi Bhabav Bapi Bikaram Chagunam Chaiva Vidi Prakritam Sambhavam. Synonyms: Prakritim, material nature; Purusham, the living entities; Cha, also; Eva, certainly; Vidi, you must know; Anadi, without beginning; Ubhau, both; Api, also; Vikaran, transformations; Cha, also; Gunan, of the three modes of nature; Cha, also; Eva, certainly; Vidi, no; Prakriti, material nature; Sambhavan, produced of. Translation: material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. We'll take turns reading the paragraphs.
Wait. Okay, go. I'm sorry. By the knowledge given in this chapter, one can understand the body, the field of activities, and the knowers of the body, both the individual soul and the super soul. The body is the field of activity and is composed of material nature. The individual soul that is embodied and enjoying the activities of the body is the Purusha, or the living entity. This is one knower, and the other is the super soul. Of course, it is to be understood that both the super soul and the individual entity are different manifestations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entity is in the category of his energy, and the super soul is in the category of his personal expansion.
Both material nature and the living entity are eternal. That is to say that they existed before the creation. The material manifestation is from the energy of the Supreme Lord, and so also are the living entities, but the living entities are of the superior energy. Both the living entities and material nature existed before the cosmos was manifested. Material nature was absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavishnu, and when it was required, it was manifested by the agency of Mahatattva. Similarly, the living entities are also in him, and because they are conditioned they are averse to serving the Supreme Lord. That's why we're here actually in the material world, because we don't want to serve God. We want to be God. So he gives us our own little playground where we can pretend. Thus, they're not allowed to enter into the spiritual sky. But with the coming forth of material nature, these living entities are again given the chance to act in the material world and prepare themselves to enter into the spiritual world. See, Krishna wants everybody to come back to him, to enjoy with him. And that is the mystery of the material creation. Actually, living entities originally the spiritual part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. But due to his rebellious nature, he is conditioned within material nature. It does not really matter how these living entities or superior entities of the Supreme Lord have come in contact with material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, however, how and why this actually took place. In the scriptures, the Lord says that those attracted by this material nature are undergoing a hard struggle for existence. But we should know it with certainty from the descriptions of these few verses that all transformations and influences of material nature by the three modes are also productions of material nature. All transformations in variety in respect to living entities are due to the body. As far as spirit is concerned, the living entities are all the same. Yeah, I remember one guy, they had a seminar, and one of the original, person who was helping with Prabhupada's books was given a seminar. His name is Jayadvaita Swami. And somebody asked him a question. So, he's talking about like how and where, just like it says here, Supreme Personality of God, how and why they come in contact with material nature and how they get here into the material world. And, he asked him that, and Jayadvaita Swami said, well, as far as I've heard, because, our tradition is like based on hearing from authorities. So he was really serious. He said, as far as I've heard, the spirit soul, when he comes to the material world, he lands in Cincinnati. It's a joke. Get it?
I'm sorry, I think I missed it.
Well, he says when the spirit soul, when he comes into the material world, he ends up in Cincinnati. That's the first place he goes.
Right.
Anyway, it was funny. And later on, when I was walking around the lake and the Ghat, where the swan boat is and everything, he was walking around there, and I was walking with him. And I told him a joke that I'd heard from David Letterman, because David Letterman is from Indiana, and he always used to say that Cincinnati is just so far away from everything, And he said, the Mars rover, it took 10 years to get to Mars. You know why? He said it because it had to go through Cincinnati. Anyway, we're just 1 minute left here. Do you have any questions or anything about this part?
Like especially that last one. It said that the material world is. Can you go back? It said that the material world is eternal. Yeah,
it is constantly being destroyed and created again and again. All the elements of material nature are within the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he activates those elements. They're in a subtle form at every manifestation. There's like an internal process that goes on. Everything comes from him, and then everything goes back into him at the end of the kalpa. There's a lifetime of Brahma, and all the universes are destroyed at the end of that, and they're partially destroyed at the end of his day. One day of Brahma is like 4,300,000,000 years. No, yeah, and he lives for 100 years. But anyway, I think we're out of time here. So thank you so much. Are you going to be here on Friday?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me know if you can't. If you can't, then. But we'll stay in touch. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.